Metabolism is an organism breaking down the world and rebuilding it into itself. When things sit, they fester. When things sit, stuff is allowed to grow. How long can you last out in outer space without a spacesuit or ship or something? Not long at all, okay? We got to get moving again, guys. Got to get on that gains train, if you know what I'm saying. Many, many humans have been through this before, and they made it out. You're going to be good to go. All right. About to get this done. Hopefully y'all doing well out there. Episode 14, Metabolism. Build or break down. I don't know what to call it. We're going to give it a better name and run it through the AI system there. But it is going to be about metabolism again. Could have covered this earlier, but it kind of like slipped my mind basically. But we're going to get this in and get it knocked out, and that'll be good. It is December 31st, 2024. Can you believe it's New Year's Eve? There we go. Big night coming for some of you out there. Don't get too crazy, all right? Don't get too crazy. Stop clapping. Goal of this episode, help you understand the other side of metabolism, right? Because I covered metabolism before. We talked about the dual sides of metabolism. We talked about tissue regeneration, and we talked about energy. It's not creation because you can't create energy or destroy it. Energy utilization from the nutrition from the environment. So we talked about those two sides, right? You have this energy thing going on, but then you also have this cellular regeneration thing going on. And those are two different things. But there's another side. There's a mode of metabolism, which we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how it ties into disease and fasting. So you get a little bit of a bigger picture on that. So there's a lot of talk about disease and where it's coming from. And fasting's kind of a hot topic. It's kind of down now, but for 3 or 4 years there, man, it's all people were doing. I got into it. It was a lot of fun. And then we're going to finish off this whole series. So this season is coming to its end, and which is great. I'm glad I was able to get out basically how your body works. I pretty much got everything down. There's some detailed stuff, but I'm just going to sneak that in as we're going through on more of the how-to, which is going to come in season 2. Outline of topics. We got updates. We got a question from the audience. We're going to review metabolism. We're going to talk about anabolic or catabolic. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about the potential for disease. We're going to talk about how it all ties into fasting and time-restricted eating and what those things are. And then we're going to have some final thoughts. And then we're going to be done. And we're going to have fun. Okay, that's what we're going to do on this episode. All right, updates. Lions got past the 49ers. I thought they were going to lose. If you watched that game, that's another reason why I'm tired today, is because I stayed up too late watching TV. Weather has been, I would say the same, but no. We had like a 50 and 55 sunny day in late December, and that was quite enjoyable. I'm looking forward to getting some more of those again. This is nearing the end. I have no idea. I think I already talked about that. Subscribers, pretty much it's the same. Nothing changed except Apple. Apple went from 20 to 21, so that's fantastic. The other ones didn't move because, well, we're not trying to make a move right now. We're making some changes in the social media manager thing again, and the new person is trying to get themselves situated. They're updating stuff we already have existing, and working on different thumbnails and things like that. So we're just kind of get ourselves organized, and we'll start pushing on this YouTube thing and make it a focus, as mentioned before. Reminder, please submit your questions to dennis@dennisfenrich.com. All right, question from the audience. It was a very long question, and it had a lot of questions within the question. But the main question was, I'll summarize. Is that the word for today? Surmise? Anyways, the main question was I've got 2 kids. I'm not sleeping at all. And is this really, really bad for me? And should I be concerned about it? That was the gist of the question. And the answer is no. Being concerned about it isn't going to help anything. Many, many humans have been through this before, and they made it out. you're going to be good to go. As far as the sleeping goes, I would say get it in where you can fit it in. Now, you still want to try and get as much sleep as you can, but it is what it is at this point, and just accept that and roll with it, right? Something I learned how to do a few years ago. I like to get to bed and get my sleep. I get my 8-9 hours every chance I can. I'm very, very regimented when it comes to that. But I also like some social activity. So I like to go out and I'll stay out late. And what I realized was that, you know what? I can stay out late, not get enough sleep, and still wake up and have a good attitude. I can still wake up and say, I'm going to get done what I need to get done today. So it took a while to get there to where I could do that. But it is a mindset. And, you got to work on it. I think you're going to be good. You're doing a good thing. Raising a family is the most, I don't know, is there a more important thing you could do? I don't think so, because, the continuation of the species, it's pretty important. So you're awesome. You're doing an awesome thing, and get your sleep in when you can and do the best job you can maintaining a good attitude. That is the question I have that is my answer to your question. All right. Let's review metabolism really quick. Metabolism is an organism breaking down the world and rebuilding it into itself. We've covered this a bunch. That is what it is. You've got two sides to that process. You've got the bringing in the energy, and you got the bringing in the substrate, the material to keep your tissues regenerating, because those are always dying and being rebuilt, and keep the energy coming in so those processes can happen. And you can move around and do other things, and give people high fives and go to comedy clubs and have laughs. I don't know, whatever you do in your spare time. So that's going on. I'm going to give you something else to think about, which is just a little perspective on how integrated you are into this thing we call Earth, the planet. So imagine, if you will, you're up in outer space. Boom, there you are. You just got magically transported up there. And you're looking down, and there it is. And you're in a place that's not good, because you're not going to last very long, right? How long can you last out in outer space without a spacesuit or ship or something? Not long at all, okay? And so life it's part of that thing. It's part of that planet. Like it's one and the same, right? You can't remove yourself from it and live. And so that environment, that world that you're in, wherever your little world is you're tied to it. You're an integral part of it, and it's influencing your metabolism all the time. How else could it be? There is no other way. We are dependent upon this thing, so we do need to take good care of it. But think about how integrated we are and part of what's going on to the environment that we're in. All right, just something to plug in there. Anabolic or catabolic? So anabolic is building and catabolic is breaking down. And you can think about an easy way to remember catabolic, if you haven't heard that word before, is cannibalism, right? Some humans years ago used to eat each other humans. That's not good, right? So that is a cannibal, and you can think about cannibalism. Drink water. So you got the dual sides of metabolism. You've got energy utilization and tissue regeneration. And then you got two modes. You've got this catabolic breaking down mode, and you've got this anabolic building mode. And so if you think about it from the world perspective, you're cannibalizing or catabolizing things from the world, and they're getting inside you, and they're getting into your bloodstream, and they're getting inside the cell. And then the cell is then anabolizing and building those things back up inside of you. So you got the outside world, but also you have the inside world. Inside you, these processes are always going on. You've always have anabolism, tissue building, and catabolism, tissue breaking down, or catabolism of utilizing energy, or anabolism of storing energy. Those things are always going on all the time everywhere. So you can think about You could totally be breaking down your muscle to feed your liver or feed your heart to rebuild and supply things to those organs, right? Organs are going to have preferential treatment over skeletal tissue, okay? So you always got the two of those things going on. But what we want to do, if we're going to build fitness, is we want to tilt the scale to a global anabolic state. We want to, I mean, if you got a body, you want to build up your muscle tissue. You want to build up your bone density. You want to build up your cardiorespiratory system. You want to build your capacity to function on this planet. And that's going to happen best in a global anabolic state, right? Now, you can still have catabolism, right? You're going to exercise, you're going to break down some tissue, but then you're going to build it back up. So we're trying to get it to tilt in a certain direction when we're trying to build our fitness, okay? Let me see what I didn't cover here. These processes are continually happening, both of them all the time. Got that. Muscle, got it. Your internal environment, got it. I don't even know if I should say this. Does it really matter? I don't know. Just something interesting to think about, because I pretty much covered what I wanted to talk about with anabolic or catabolic, because you do need to know that, right? Because if you're going to build fitness, you need to know that the ideal way to build fitness is in a positive energy balance with enough amino acids from proteins coming in. You want a positive nitrogen balance, which comes from how much protein you're taking in. And you want a positive energy balance from the calories that you're taking in. And that's going to be your fastest way to build your fitness up and build your metabolism back up if it's going really slow, because you've been chronically in a catabolic state for a prolonged period of time and your metabolism has slowed way down, okay? That's the concept of refeeding and building your metabolism up. So, give you something else to think about and kind of help conceptualize things, for the whole balance of the internal movement that's going on. Because that stuff's just moving parts, right? So if you think about let's do the planet analogy again. Bam, you're off in outer space and you're staring at planet Earth. And you're looking at planet Earth, and what does it look like? It looks like one thing that isn't really doing that much. If you stared at it long enough, maybe the clouds you could see the clouds moving around, but it looks like something that's not much going on. But if you were to zoom in anywhere on that planet, to the desert, the sand's moving, to the oceans or any large lakes, any water anywhere, there's going to be movement there. If you go to a city, the people are moving, right? So you pan out, looks like it's stable, you go zoom in anywhere and there's movement everywhere. That's the same thing that's going on in your body, especially inside the cell. The cell is always moving around amino acids and fatty acids and energy. It's just like a whirlwind in there. I think if you scaled it up, things be moving at 10,000 miles an hour inside the cell. I think I had heard that once. There's just always this metabolism that's going on, man, which is quite fascinating. Just another thing to think about, okay? So what else do I got on here? We take a global view as catabolic, anabolic, yeah, so pretty much covered it. Ultimately, we want to create, depending on our goals and where we're at in our fitness program, we want to create a net positive. We want to create more of an anabolic state overall, okay? This is where, so there's basically two prevailing theories on where disease is coming from. We've got the chronic inflammation as the cause of all disease. I don't know what to say about that. I'm going to have to cover that on a podcast. And then we've got this other one, which I heard, which I kind of liked for a little while, which was it's not necessarily chronic inflammation, right? If I go hurt myself, if I damage my muscle through exercise or falling down, well, what happens? Well, inflammation goes there. Was that bad? No, it's not bad. That's your body increasing fluids in the area so it can speed up metabolism and heal the tissue. That's what the inflammation is. Now, this chronic underlying inflammation seems like low protein intake to me and inactivity, but I'm going down a rabbit trail and I forgot what the heck I was going to talk about. Oh, yeah. So it was covering inflammation really quick. But there's this other thing which I kind of liked, which was basically, hey, you know what? The disease we see today, these chronic diseases, these are just chronic anabolic states, right? They're all diseases of excess, right? If you think about cancer is excess tissue growth. If we think about heart disease is building up of the lipids, plaques inside the artery walls of your heart or your periphery arteries. And so that's bad, right? So this is building up. Alzheimer's was the amyloid plaques inside the brain were building up again. We got excess. We got this anabolic state. Although, I don't know if you know this or not, but that whole thing has been shot up like Swiss cheese. And all you got to do is search, I wrote it down here, search the amyloid plaque scam if you want to see something crazy about what somebody did in science, which is basically, what's that called? It's edited. They changed the pictures and so they could, anyways, look it up. It's terrible. That whole amyloid plaque thing pretty much fell apart. You got type 2 diabetes. You got this, which is basically an excess of glucose or energy in the bloodstream. Again, we have this chronic anabolic state. I'm like, man, for a while, I'm like, well, that makes sense. But then I got some other piece of information that was, hey, here's what some people found out. Found out that if you were overweight, I'm not talking like chronically obese, if you were overweight and you were active as, somebody 5 days a week, getting after it, doing it, but you got 10, 20, 30 pounds on you, well, your all-cause mortality rate, which is your probability of dying from anything, was at the exact same level as the person who was exercising the same amount and at a quote-unquote healthy weight. So is it the excess energy or is it the lack of movement? To me, I think it's the lack of movement. I think it's when we sit and we take in food and we create this chair is stuck, and we create this kind of chronic anabolism in an inactive state. Well, what is going to happen? You're going to get this building up, this backing up of the systems because you're a flow-through system. And if things aren't flowing, you're through, right? That's metabolism. Metabolism, things always need to be moving. And if you don't get that, well, you're going to have a problem. You can think about this as a pond or a stream. And I've done this analogy before, right? If we were to go outside and I said, hey, you got to drink a glass of water, you got to go stick your face in that stream and take a sip, or you got to go stick your face in that pond and take a sip. Well, we're all doing the stream. Excuse me, drink water. We're all doing the stream because when things sit, they fester. When things sit, stuff is allowed to grow. And to me, what it seems like the chronic disease thing is really not the nutrition as much as it is the inactivity, right? Because if I'm in a positive energy balance and I'm exercising, well, I build fitness like crazy. Like if you've been training for a long time and you've also been like dieting and trying to stay lean, go in a positive energy balance for a week and watch what happens. I mean, it is profound, right? And it's like total common sense. Like, hey, I was in a negative energy balance and I was tired, and then I went to positive energy balance and all of a sudden I had energy. Duh. Like, that ain't rocket science. So anyways, we're a flow-through system. I don't think, and this is just my opinion, it's just how I'm seeing it. I'm just giving out my, saying what I think. You do what you want with it. But it appears to me that it's the inactivity, is the big culprit here, not necessarily the food. And it's the demonizing of food, which is the thing that is keeping you alive, seems inaccurate to me. Okay, what else do I got on here? I didn't say this, but this is going to be a short podcast. We are a flow-through system. I got that. Air's coming in, oxygen's coming in, carbon dioxide's going out. Your blood always needs to be moving. Energy is always flowing. You're expending energy. Even if you're sitting, you're still expending energy. And you're taking in energy. And then I'm going to skip the last one because it's nasty. But anyways, so we're a flow-through system. Things need to be flowing. So with that in mind, think about it. Let me cover this super quick. So, no, actually, I just did cover it. So we're good to go there. Fitness and nutrition ads. Yeah, I got all that good stuff. So again, is it nutrition or is it lack of movement? I think it's lack of movement for the most part. I think that's the real culprit. We got to get moving again, guys. Got to get on that gains train, if you know what I'm saying. All right, so let's talk about fasting and time-restricted eating super quick, all right? So because they kind of get mixed up, and there's not technically a difference here. There could be, but nobody really established it. And that was kind of the discussion. When I got into the fasting back in 2019, that was kind of the discussion that was there, and it never got settled. So basically, what would be great is if we identified fasting based on some blood markers, right? So we said you're not in a fasted state technically until your metabolism shows a fasted state, okay? And so a fasted state at the time, which I thought was going to be great, we could look at your blood glucose levels, we could look at your growth hormone, we could look at your testosterone, you could look at your ketone levels, and from that you could triangulate or whatever. Hey, this is what a fasted state is. This is what, when somebody's metabolism has shifted from a anabolic to a more catabolic state, this is what that internal environment looks like. Nobody really did it because the whole thing kind of fell out of vogue, but people were saying, so the reason I say all that is because people were saying time restricted eating was fasting, right? If I eat in a 4-hour window or 8-hour window, I fasted the rest of the time. I mean, you're not eating, If I don't eat for an hour, am I fasting? I don't think so. It doesn't seem that way. But anyways, I'm just getting on a high horse on this one. It doesn't really matter. Just interesting, I suppose. So what was going on with the whole fasting thing? And there is value in fasting, right? Like, depending on the situation, there's going to be value there. So what's going on is basically if you stop eating, your body is, as you now know, it's going to go into a catabolic state. It's going to start to cannibalize its own tissues to keep the system running, to make sure that your brain or your heart or your liver or the other vital things, your immune system has the things that it needs, the amino acids and the energy available to do what it needs to do. Most of the cannibalization is going to come from old, junky, in air quotes, tissues. And what that means is, since you're always regenerating cells, that means you've got brand new cells, but that also means you have older cells that might be lingering around. And so when we go into this fasted state, your metabolism is very smart. It knows, is another way to say it, what is new and what is old, and it's going to preferentially break down the old tissues for the amino acids that it's looking for. So people were noticing this and going, this is amazing, right? This is the fountain of youth, right? I'm getting rid of old kind of crappy tissues and I'm forcing this regeneration of new tissue when I feed again, and this is amazing. And I do think that is amazing. But there's a bit of a thing going on here where you can kind of mimic that environment, right? If you are exercising, because exercising puts a demand on energy, which can kind of create a catabolic state because you're consuming more than is coming in. And that kind of mimics the things that we were seeing in a catabolic state from fasting. And so then it kind of fell out of vogue and people don't talk about it as much anymore. I still think there's value there. I still think that if somebody has never really been in a chronic or in a moderate to longer term catabolic state, right? They've kind of been inactive and they've kind of always been in a positive energy balance throughout their life. Maybe slowly putting on a pound or two every year for X amount of years, right? I think ideally exercise is the best situation there. Is the ideal solution. But I also think if they're not going to do that, turning off the intake and forcing an internal catabolic state could be a viable option or a tool to start to increase health and help improve their metabolism. If you're in your 20s, it's really not going to apply to you. Your metabolism runs so good, you're not going to have a problem with it. The person that might fall into the category, 35 to 55, 65, if that's kind of you've never really been active, you've been slowly putting on weight, could be a good thing to do. I'm not telling you to do it. Just talk to your physician or whatever. You figure that out. One of the things that was noticed with fasting in older populations, well, really wasn't much benefit. The reason why I think that is because when you're 75 and you're not moving at all, your metabolism is so slow that going on a 3-day fast doesn't really create much of a calorie deficit because you just didn't burn that much. Now, if that person was active and they were doing some stuff with some fasting or time restricted eating or whatever, maybe they would see a benefit. Okay, I think that surmises what I wanted to say about fasting. Overeating and inactive, you've been in an active energy balance, 30-60, not affecting when older. I got it all. Got it all. Fantastic. Guys, this season has been a ton of fun and a lot of work. Don't only lie. It's been a ton of work, but I've enjoyed it. I'm happy to get it out there, to get pretty much, hey, here's how your body works. You can go through these videos, you can listen to this podcast and start to kind of get a conceptual idea of, not the individual systems. And this is the main point. Not what your heart's doing and not what your liver's doing and not getting in the details and all that stuff, but what does the organism do as a whole and how does it operate within the environment and what is causing good adaptation and bad adaptation or disease, as we just talked about. Okay, so I'm just going to read some final thoughts to you guys to kind of wrap up the whole season. Then I'll be done and we're moving on to something different, okay? Big things get broken down into little things and put back together into big things. An organism, a body. The process has evolved over billions of years. This is metabolism. You are the beneficiary of one of these incredible metabolic machines. Your body has been breaking down the world and rebuilding itself since the day you were born. It does this completely on its own. You don't will it or have very much to do with it. Metabolism exists without you, but you cannot exist without metabolism. So the question becomes, how do you take care of it? And that will be the focus of the next season of this podcast. Yeah, that's about it. The season is at an end. I'm excited about that. Next episode, we're going to get into some how-tos, guys. So pretty sure you're ready for that. And the first one is going to be on, it's very apropos, setting goals. It's the new year, and you should set goals. I know that's been getting poo-pooed lately, and I'm going to talk about why that's just a silly thing. On a typical year, set goals at the beginning of the year. That's what everybody does. Yeah, there's a reason for that, and we're going to get into it because it's been going on for like 6,000 years. But we'll cover that in the next podcast. So we're going to talk about setting goals, all right? Help us grow. Like and subscribe. Also, if you see a video, share it. Get people to go to the YouTube channel. We're going to start pushing on that next week, and I'm excited about that. And lastly, as always, appreciate you guys' time. If you do have any questions, please submit them to dennis@dennisfenrich.com. All right, guys, the season's been a lot of fun. Looking forward to the next one. We're going to do some different stuff. We're going to have some people on. It's going to be a good time, and we will see you then. All right, bye.